Hey everyone, and welcome to this fourth tutorial on HTML. In this video I'm going to show you how to create forms for the user to enter data. So let's get started. The first thing to note is that everything in a form must go between these form tags, like that. So all our form content will go between here. Secondly, if we're using some kind of server-side language to interpret these forms, which I'll come on to in another video series, or you may already know from elsewhere, you will need to specify a page for these forms to go to when the user presses submit. So you could have, I don't know, say if you had a folder, you could have something like that for your path, and your method can either be post or get. I'll come on to that again later. But basically, get, the parameters will show up in the user's URL and post won't. So you could do something like that. And we'll see there's nothing to see yet from that form. So let's get started with a form element. The most common form element is the input box. So to that, you use the input like that. And we want to give this input a type of text so they can enter text in there. And it's also, we'll need to give it a name so that we can process it at the other end. So first name. Whoops. You see we've now got a text box labelled first name for them. We can also use another example of input box. Just if we want the user to be able to enter a password, we could use input type equals password. Like that. And if you see here, we've now got a password field. In a similar way, we can use a date picker if we want, say we want the user to enter their date of birth. Input type equals date. And the default date picker for Chrome is quite nice. It's quite easy for them to enter their date of birth. So the next element I'm going to show you is the text area. So this lets the user enter a bit more information. So say a paragraph. It's pretty easy to use. You just do text area. We'll see here it's quite small. So we can also specify the rows and the columns for that text area. So that should now be allow for 5 lines of text, each 50 characters long. So it's a bit better. Right, next up I'm going to show you radio buttons and checkboxes. So say you want the user to be able to select the subjects they studied or are studying at school. You could do input type equals checkbox. Yeah. I'll just copy this. Put a few break lines in. Whoops. Right, and then if I come here, you'll see that, whoops, We've now got a series of checkboxes, and with checkboxes, you probably already know, but you can select multiple boxes like so. However, if we wanted the user to only be able to select one box, we can use radio buttons, and these work in much the same way, only you have input type equals radio. It's also worth noting that you'll need to give the radio buttons a name to process, so say status, and a value equals so whatever the first one is. So I'll just pause the video while I type these out, so and then explain it later. Okay, so let's try refreshing that. Yeah, we've now got a series of radio buttons. So you'll see that I've given each radio button the same name, and each radio button its own unique value. So when I click a radio button, I won't be able to select two at once, whereas if they'd had a slightly different name, say like that, you see that I can select one from each group, but not two from those two, if that makes sense, because those two were in a different group. There, one radio button can be selected at a time, and multiple checkboxes can be selected at a time. Drop-down menus work in a similar way. So if we wanted to have a drop-down menu, for example, you could go use the select tag, and all the items for a drop-down menu will go in between here. So like this, name equals. If I save this and preview, you see down here I've now got, oh sorry, it's gone off the screen. The user can now select their phone: Android, iPhone, Windows Phone. Right, before this video ends, I'll just very quickly show you how you can have a file upload tag, and then show you some input buttons. So file upload, if you want the user to just be able to add images, you could do input type equals file, and then you give it a name, and then you can have a parameters on what you'd like to select. So if I preview that over here, you will see that you can now select a file from here, and it will only let you select images. Right, finally I'm just going to show you how you can put form control buttons into your web page, which will look like this. See, it's input type equals either submit, reset, or just a standard button. So here we've now got buttons. So if you'd filled this with data, and then you press reset, all the data will be reset using the reset button. Okay, so I think that's all we've got time for in this video, but in the next video I'll be covering HTML5 specific elements, so that should be quite good.